What's good, YouTube? As promised, post comps I was going to get back on the educational content, so today I figured we'd kick things off with something a little bit more fun to talk about and dive into. Still relevant to bodybuilding, and I think definitely so with modern popular culture at the moment, and that is THC. THC in respective to bodybuilding, does it really have a place? Well, let's take a look through the clinical data and I'll give you my opinion. Now, I just want to caveat this video and start off by saying I am an advocate user of THC. I find it has plausible benefit for me in growth phases and fat loss phases. We'll dive into a little bit about that after we've gone through the clinical research. But anyway, as we know with modern day, how things are moving, you can quite clearly see that cannabis, THC use, CBD is all very, very popular. Now, it's important to say I'm not talking about CBD today, just simply tetrahydrocannabinoidal, THC, the interesting one that people smoke for its psychoactive effects, and how could it be useful to a bodybuilder or detrimental to a bodybuilder. Now, typically we think about perhaps a setting in the off season where food is at its highest, peak high food, appetite is very low, it's not very comfortable. Perhaps that could be a good useful time to make use of the munchies and that appetite enhancing effect to drive and consume more food at that point. Another thing that we see quite a lot of the time is bodybuilders making use of THC pre-bed on prep. Now, this is a little bit of a hypocritical thing to do. Now, quite obviously from anecdotal response, bodybuilders notice that THC helps them get to sleep. But what we find in clinical literature, and I will pop the study I'm referencing here below in the comments for you, is that it actually deprives sleep quality. So your deep and REM sleep worsens in quality and efficiency, but we do see an improvement in sleep latency. Now, all that means is the time it takes for you to fall asleep. So what we're seeing here is bodybuilders falling asleep faster at a time in the contest window when perhaps sleep is really going down the dark side, waking up every hour, struggling to get to sleep. So what we're seeing is bodybuilders potentially noticing this effect of falling asleep faster and tying that into having a better sleep. Now, I will put through to you that yes, the clinical data does support that worsened sleep quality of your deep and REM sleep. That potentially, if the bodybuilder, for example, was to not use THC, they would probably be rolling around all night, not able to sleep. So even though when they sleep, they get better quality, maybe that's not beneficial. Maybe having the duration with a lesser quality of sleep and actually going to sleep is more beneficial for them at that point in prep. So potentially, when we weigh up the negatives and positives there, it's quite clear that to some extent in the off season, maybe you want to consider and think about that recovery variable of sleep needing to be optimized and efficient. Maybe THC isn't the best choice for an appetite enhancement at that point that's going to support your growth. Who knows? That's not for me to tell you what to do. Now, there is some conflicting data coming out recently. As THC has become more widely used, we are now getting the relevant studies done and research done into it, obviously because there's less barriers to do those studies. One thing that we're starting to notice is there's a few studies coming out on chronic long-term use and the potential for chronic long-term use of THC to cause interactions within the brain, neurotoxic interactions that could lead to an improvement or a speeding up of brain degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, but only in patients who have the genetic expression for these things to be more probable. So that's something to also consider when we think about enhanced bodybuilders. Now, this isn't set in stone yet, as the data is sparse and very new. Obviously, hopefully in a few years, we'll have some more concrete to back this up. But potentially for bodybuilders that are already taking neurotoxic chemicals, maybe we need to think about the lifespan of a bodybuilder competing, running these enhancements, and should they really be taking something else that's also going to further drive that neurotoxic effect and potentially lead to brain degenerative issues later on in life. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not against the use of THC. I think it's just quite obvious and clear that we need to be truthful about what it actually does, what it can do, and is there potential benefit or gain here. So always, like with everything, weigh up your needs analysis, the risk reward for you, and see whether it is actually worth it and if it actually does give you any positive gain in whatever phase you're in. But apart from that, guys, that is the first overview into THC. Now I'm going to follow this up with a part 2 at some point in the near future, because the world of cannabis and THC and bodybuilding is a little bit more deeper than the black and white we've just spoken about here. Coming up, a little look into terpenes and how we could leverage certain THC types and strains to actually aid our contest prep. But for now, guys, peace out. Thanks for watching the video. Please, any likes, comments, subscriptions are all massively, massively appreciated. And until the next time, peace.